Hi, my name is Rachael Eben, and I'm with 8th Mountain Ranch, and this is the first installment of Outside the Round Pen. It's a series that we're going to be diving into what it looks like both in training scenarios with our neighbor horse named Josie, as well as what it looks like to have parallels with interacting with horses and our relationship and walk with the Lord. So, what does it look like to face something you've never faced before? What if you spent years with no one around you speaking your language or even being someone you could trust? You don't know how much that means until you don't have it, right? And that's something that every time we enter a new scenario, a new relationship environment, or go to a new place, a new setting, sometimes people can take for granted how much that means to them until they don't have it, until they don't have someone there that is safe to be around, someone that you can dialogue with when things are out of whack or not comfortable. Meet Josie. This is a horse we don't know a whole lot about her background or her story, but she's been given the opportunity to start to have a new conversation. So the first time that I started to work with her, she was hesitant about allowing me into her space. She's comfortable with people being interactive with her at a boundary. And obviously this is a physical example, but it's something when we look at it spiritually, a lot of people hold each other at a distance, and there's from fear or just simply lack of trust or safe spaces. So she was very cautious about allowing me in. I know how to speak a little bit of horse is the way that we term it, but because of that, I was able to go from she was very uncomfortable with me even being in her environment, which is quite large. It's not even the size of a round pen. It's actually just the paddock that she's been kept for the last 5 years. And starting to work on asking questions of her to get her to think in a way that's allowing me to get closer, showing her that I'm not there to harm her. Very preliminary, just basic, more like shooting the breeze type conversation, but in a way that's welcoming. And that took a while for her to be comfortable with me doing that. And then there was this beautiful moment where she chose to come in. She realized that there was something that, okay, this human, this person is safe enough for me to tolerate in my space. We can cohabitate, that's fine. There's no issue with us being in the same environment, but I'm not going to allow her in. And so from there, that was probably a solid maybe 30 minutes or so where it was just that conversation before she was even willing to trust enough to get close. But I made it her idea. She had complete freedom, and that's something that the Lord is so good about, just allowing us to have complete space and time and not worry that he's going to overstep a boundary. He's so good at knowing our thresholds, and that's one of the keys with working with a horse you've never worked with or who's never really had someone try to work with her in an honoring way. Again, we don't know much about it, but this is a new conversation, at least for the last several years for this horse. So we did that, and then after that, she was okay with me being in her space. I could be around her, but we changed the game, and I was asking for her to just trust me just a little bit, to yield her back in so she could face me, and that would take all the pressure off. She didn't have to run. She didn't have to work up the stress and adrenaline, being nonstop and just uncertain of what I was asking and feeling unsafe when I was asking questions. And it took another large chunk of time for her to realize that was all I was asking. I wasn't asking for all of these high demands. I wasn't wanting her to trust me with everything and all of her story and all of her baggage and then change everything at once. That's not even possible. But sometimes, especially when we're looking at it with the Lord, that parallel is so similar, where we're in the middle of a mess or we're in the middle of a transition season, and it's just hard to feel safe enough to allow just a tiny little piece, because the fear is if you allow a tiny little piece, it's just gonna open these floodgates and everything's just gonna tumble out and you aren't gonna be able to control it. And there's fear of how that'll be handled in our human relationships and the way that we interact with people's hearts and our own story and their stories. And so with Josie, it's very similar, but it was a physical representation of that. And so from there, again, just continuing to massage that area and be like, can you trust me here? Can you trust me here? Can you just a little bit? All I'm asking for is just this little piece. And then all that pressure is going to come off. You're going to feel so much better. You don't know the potential that you have until you have someone that's able to walk with you through it. And that's exactly what I'm trying to do with her. But it takes a mutual appreciation and willingness to have a conversation like that. So she finally did. After an hour and a half of working with her, she finally yielded, and she recognized that there was something there. And it was really rewarding for her, and then it was a full release. And that was the full first session that I interacted with her, was just getting her to say, oh, okay, I can allow you this much in. And that was it. That was all I was asking, and it was a huge win. And with horses, this is a little bit of a tangent, but this is something that I wish the Lord would have made us in a way where we could learn something in as quick a time with as many mistakes as we make. It'd be so much nicer if we could just do it the way the horses do. It takes them 1 to 3 tries at something before they have a mastery and understanding of it. It takes us up to like 20, and I'm like, wait. So it's hard when you're thinking about interacting with an animal that's so sharp. They're mentally always doing acrobats, they're playing games, they're always thinking ahead, they're naturally skeptics. And for someone who's not, that's not the way that God designed our brains, be it fallen or not, I don't know, but but it's part of what we work with in the way that we learn. Taking that and just trying really hard to be able to speak her language and make it safe enough and catch on to the small intentions when she's trying, rewarding even just the try, not so much about, oh, you didn't make it, the shame of you failed, you didn't accomplish this task, but actually nope, that I see that try, I'm going to honor that try, and doing one step after step of that process is what then she ultimately was comfortable with allowing me in. Now, what's so cool about this is with horses also, they don't hold grudges, but they do remember how you leave things. I'm not a parent, but I know a lot of parents who will talk about this, that with their kids, it's something similar. They have the understanding that there's a feeling around something. So if you have a really tough conversation about something, if you left it with them feeling like they were empowered, they're able to walk out and make more life-giving decisions, then they're able to come back when there's another hard conversation and there's trust built there. But if it's negative, and there's a ton of shame left on it, then there's more fear, and usually the child will go to hiding. I know some of that from my own story, that was my default. Horses are the exact same way. Not necessarily from shame, but if there was a negative interaction and that's what you ended on, instead of ending on a win, which is something as simple as her turning in and allowing me to just have a moment with her where she could trust me, no parameters, no boundaries, just there. That moment was then where I'm building on the foundation the next time I interact with her. So the second time that I went out and worked with her, which was just this last weekend, she came up to the fence, and it was a completely different experience because she remembered the trust and the honor of the conversation we had at the very beginning, and that was what we built on. That was the foundation layer that we built on. Now, every time you go and interact with a horse, you don't know what you're gonna be faced with. You don't know how much you're gonna accomplish or not, and that's what's so cool about this, is the Lord is the same way. He has no agendas with us. And if you go in to work with a horse with an agenda, or I have to be done by this amount of time, they will destroy that plan every time, because they aren't locked into that mindset. There's so much more about the relational side of it, where are you asking this in a way that I can trust you? has nothing to do of the capability or not, because she is more than capable of being honoring. She's more than capable of having this conversation, but it's the way that I'm asking, that's what's drawing it out of her. And so it was so beautiful to be able to go from she barely even wanting me in her space to she let me touch her. She let me put a halter on her to play with her, stand with her. It was simple. That sounds so simple as far as something to accomplish. Oh, you just want to go stand with her. But that's so big because I'm not trying to get an animal that can just be used and dominated. I'm trying to get a relationship with this animal where I can start to continuously draw out that design, the power that the Lord has inside of us. We do the same thing with people, or have the ability to do the same thing with people, with our peers or our children or even our parents. Going all over our sphere is being able to offer life and death, right? And that's what the Lord did with us. When you look at salvation, when you look in Deuteronomy 30, it talks about the whole idea of He presented us with life and death. And daily we have the opportunity to choose life and death. And it's not this big, I mean, sometimes people make it out to be, and it is a big deal when you're looking at salvation. But in those little moments when your thought life is not healthy and you're struggling to overcome something and the enemy's coming at you with discouraging thoughts, or you're just overwhelmed, the opportunity is to choose life and death. And the same way that I'm working with Josie and offering her this conversation, and there's no pressure on my end for her to do it at any given time. I just know that what I'm offering is actually a gift and a blessing. That's what Jesus does with us every single day, because Jesus he's the fulfillment of everything that we need. He's the ability for us to overflow and actually give what I'm doing with Josie, right? But on a grander scale with everyone we interact with. When you go to the grocery store, from, when you're just at home and you're worshiping and there's something, the Lord lays someone on your heart, you can bless yourself as well as everyone around you by receiving that gift and choosing life instead of choosing death. And so there's so much beauty in that, in the way that the Lord has given us options. He's given us choices, and He's such a gentleman. He doesn't push past our boundaries, but it's so much easier when we just yield. When we're able to just go, okay, I know this is really scary, but I'm going to trust you with this part of my story. I'm going to trust you with this thing that I'm struggling with, that I'm wrestling with, that I'm not even sure how to handle. I don't even know what's going on. And you just give that over to Him. The weight comes off of us and it goes on Him, because we weren't even designed to carry it. And that's the same thing with this horse, but it's just an example of the way the Lord works with every single one of His kids. So it's just powerful parallels to go from not just tolerating Him in your space, not just allowing Him to be present and, oh, okay, you can have this part of my life, when I go to church on Sunday, or, when I'm just needing something, but actually allowing Him into the intimate parts of your journey and the intimate parts of your walk. And so I just invite you to ask the Lord what a new conversation looks like this week, and what it looks like to start to massage those boundaries and barriers from Him out of your life and your walks, and how you can become more of an encouragement to the people around you. So thank you so much for joining me. This has been really exciting, and I look forward to being able to do more with Outside the Round Pen and the parallels of our own walk and the journey that we're going to go through with Josie. So tune in for next week's episode, and if you have any questions, everything will be linked in the website and email, so feel free to reach out.